All right, welcome back to the Sooner Surge, and got a special baseball edition for you as the schedule has been released. Before we get started with that, make sure you hit subscribe, join this channel, be a part of it. Really appreciate all y'all that have joined recently as we've had a influx of subscribers. Really appreciate that, and just keep them coming. And Hunter, let's get started, man. The schedule is out. How exciting, man! 3.5 months away, probably, but let's talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, OU opens the season at their second home, Globe Life in Arlington. That was known beforehand. Shriners Children's Classic was not known on those 3 days, February 16th through 18th, who they would be playing. Found that out today. You got Oregon, who went to the Supers. They played 3 games, a really good series last year against ORU, with the chance to go to Omaha on the line. So you got them. You got Tennessee, who went to the College World Series last year. They were 44-22 a year ago. And then you have Nebraska, who was 33-23-1. Not bad, not great, but it's a really good opening weekend for OU. I know last year you had Cal Baptist and you lost at home that opening weekend. So now you're going to be in Arlington going against 3 really good baseball teams. So it's going to be a good early test for Skip Johnson and co.
And Hunter, that's a round robin, correct? They play each team.
Yeah, I believe I could be wrong. I think it's just going to be those 3 games.
Yeah.
I don't think they really do it as like a tournament.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
more of just opening weekend, kind of just some normal baseball.
What now? Tennessee's an interesting one because obviously Tennessee is kind of I would consider them almost a powerhouse in baseball. And last year they were down. They were down a little bit, and they still were 44-20. I mean, they're still good. People before the season thought they were going to be, I mean, really, really good, and they kind of slipped up a little bit. But you can expect them to be really good. Oregon's going to be a good test, so that's a great opening weekend, man.
Yeah, and that's the reason OU got those 3 teams. You may wonder, as the other 2 are Baylor and Tech.
Yeah.
They're on the schedule later on, so no reason to play them first weekend of the year. You may as well play those other 3 teams in Oregon, Tennessee. And like you said, Tennessee, yeah, they had a down year last year, but they made it to the World Series, College World Series, and really gave LSU at times a good run for their money. And Oregon was a really impressive team last year, one that I would have really rooted for if they weren't playing Oral Roberts. Like, you got to root for ORU. That's a Tulsa team. So it's going to be a good early test. And to also on the schedule early on is Dallas Baptist. That was a team that gave OU some problems last year. I know they not walked it off. They took the lead in like the 9th. Blew a save at home in a midweek. But OU, that's one thing that OU's it was noticeable last year, especially on OU making the tournament and Kansas State not making this tournament, because OU's able to schedule these really tough midweek games. Those Tuesday games can make or break your schedule if you finish in the middle of your conference with about 30 or so wins. And that's what helped OU last year is they had Dallas Baptist, ORU, Wichita State. Those were their midweeks for most of the year. I think they also had UT Arlington. But ORU went to the College World Series last year. That was no one saw that coming. Dallas Baptist, they were in the same regional as ORU, so they got knocked out by them. But I think they upset Oklahoma State in that regional. They were both in Stillwater. No one saw anyone but Oklahoma State making it out of that. And you had those 2 teams play really well, and OU played really well against them. They split with Dallas Baptist. I think they swept ORU, or maybe I can't remember. I know one game got canceled against them. So it's nice to be able to have those midweek matchups again. And the home opener, Wright State, nothing big time, but it'll be a good opening series before you get into expedited conference play. OU's not used to that. It used to be you had 8 3-game series in the Big 12 because there was only 9 teams. Now you add in 4 more teams, and you have instead 10 3-game series, so 30 games. So you get 2 extra series. Takes a little bit of non-conference play away from your schedule, which is fine. The only two teams they are not playing this year are Houston and Kansas. Iowa State, if you don't know, does not have a baseball team. So
I was kind of disappointed. I was hoping to get Houston.
Yeah, Houston last year was fun. We played them on the road in a non-conference. Yeah. I think we got the sweep, if I remember correctly. So that was a fun series. I would have liked to have them. But it's a really good conference slate. I kind of like the way it's set up this year. You got UCF at home to open it up. So that'll be a fun one. Kind of in between there, they have a Las Vegas. I don't know if it's a tournament or a round robin. Hasn't been announced yet on what that will be on the opponents for that. That'll come later down the line. And then you go on the road to TCU the following weekend. I was a College World Series team last year. They went 44-24. So it's going to be a tough road test early on for the Sooners in conference play. So really like the additions they have this year in the pitching department, in the starting rotation, in the bullpen. I think it's going to be a really good season down at L.Dale Mitchell. So it's going to be fun. Last ride in the Big 12 before you go to the big boy conference and the SEC. So it's going to be a fun year.
Yeah, and it does seem like the schedule is a good schedule. Like you said, it's so important to have some of those big non-conference games, Hunter. It's just kind of like I compare it a little bit to March Madness in basketball. If you don't have any big wins or any tough games in non-conference, and say you kind of like OU, you do struggle a little bit in the during the season in conference, and you don't have those games to fall back on, it can really hurt you.
Yeah, 100%. That's, like I said earlier, that's why OU made the tournament last year. It was, I mean, that was the direct reason because the final spot was to OU or Kansas State, and OU got that nod because of they had a significantly better non-conference schedule, and mostly last year that was due to having Stanford come in for a 4-game series at home. That does not happen again this year. Kind of disappointed on that, but a lot of that comes down to, well, there's 2 extra Big 12 series, so you kind of schedule those mid-majors. And last year it was 7 because they did the extra one for Stanford to make it 4, make it worth their while to come down to Norman. So you lose those 2 weekends of baseball. Last year they had it with Stanford and then Gonzaga on the road, kind of in the middle of the season to help with some off weekend stuff in the Big 12. But having those extra teams, it takes that away. But to still be able to go back to Arlington, I know OU a few years ago went to the Shriners Classic. So to be able to go back for that opening weekend, last year they had one in Frisco, like second weekend of the season. I think this is a much better slate for those type of weekends than what they had last year. Last year they had Mississippi State, Ohio State, and I'm blanking on the other team in Frisco. Now you got Oregon and Tennessee, who were really good teams last year. Nebraska wasn't an awful team. They were a good team that if they played in a better conference, they possibly could have went to the tournament. It's just Big Ten baseball is not that good. So you get West Virginia at home this year. That's nice. I'm glad that they're not going back to West Virginia. That was a nightmare last year, if anyone remembers that. Rain all weekend. Just refusal to move the games around to where it should be so you don't have rain delays. And OU dropped a critical series there. Then you have Oklahoma State earlier this year than it was last year, April 5th through 7th in Stillwater. So that's going to be fun. Bedlam baseball is always a blast. Wish it would go back to Tulsa, but Stillwater, it's a nice ballpark. Like, you can't complain. Like, there's a reason that they've moved these games around. It was nice to have it back at L.Dale Mitchell last year, even though it didn't finish how we wanted it to. But you had Braden Carmichael throwing a complete game shutout, so that was pretty cool. This year, you also have Kansas State at home. That's always a fun one. That was a chippy series last year. Their coach was former OU coach. A lot of bad blood in that one, so it's going to be fun to welcome them to L.Dale Mitchell. The one I'm most excited about for Toby Rowland is BYU on the road. That is, I know he's talked about it. We had him on back in January about for football, like scenery and all that. BYU has one of the most beautiful baseball stadiums with the backdrop that they have there.
Mm-hmm.
So to be able to, your only year in the Big 12, OU be able to make that trip there is pretty cool. I'm glad that was able to work out.
Yeah, so there you have it, guys. The baseball schedule, and if you're new to
the, you got Texas still at home for the first time in a long time.
Oh, that's true.
They did
Is Tech on the road?
Yeah, Tech is in Lubbock. You got Texas at home, and then Tech in Lubbock. So that's a team. You have Texas, who went to the Supers last year, that were a error away from going to the College World Series. They didn't make that error. And then you have Tech, who what I thought was a team that was good enough to go to the Supers, but they got put up against Florida. I mean, come on, that's Florida went to the national championship. So to get put in that regional, it's hard to make it out of it. I think they won a game or two, weren't able to make it out of it. And then you kind of the way the end of the season kind of ended, and it's very favorable for the Sooners, as you got Baylor at home, who was not great last year. They were 20-35. And then Cincinnati on the road. And then you got the Big 12 tournament. So 2 series that you would want a 6-game conference winning streak to end it. If it goes how I expect these teams to turn out this year. So it's going to be it's a pretty good schedule for the Big 12. As I said earlier, no Houston, no Kansas. So 10 teams. You get the new teams in the conference except for Houston. So it's going to be a fun year for baseball.
Yeah, it will be. And Sooner fans, man, the first series of the year in Arlington, a great place to go watch a series, and would be great to go down there and watch that opening weekend. So do that. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do. Hunter he's wealth of baseball knowledge for Sooner fans. So you'll want to follow along to this channel. When baseball season gets rolling, he'll have everything for you. So please do that. It'll be here before you know it. It really will. So we're probably going to go in here and post this. I don't know if you can post it in the comments, Hunter, the link to the schedule, people can click on it, but that'd be great. But yeah, thanks for joining us again. Please subscribe. Till next time, Boomer.